The basic issue that I'm dealing with in this presentation is the question of how democracy is possible in the context of the division of labor that a modern state presupposes. I mean, the division of labor I have in mind is not just people doing different jobs, but it's also a cognitive division of labor. Of course, ordinary citizens in general don't have much of that specialized knowledge, or in many cases don't have much knowledge at all about how government is operating, or at least they don't appear to. And so the question becomes, how is democracy possible? I mean, if you're thinking of democracy as being characterized in terms of citizens playing the leading role in some sense in the state, then the fact that these people who are playing a leading role in the state don't seem to be very well informed, and really can't be that well informed given the division of labor, seems to suggest that you're going to have a real problem with democracy. And I'm particularly interested in the question how it is that citizens can make a significant contribution to a democratic society even at low levels of information. In fact, democratic societies have mechanisms by which citizens can make decisions that are based on good information without they themselves having that information. What I'm trying to use here is what's called the economics of information, and in particular the theory of economics of information that Anthony Downs, in this wonderful book called An Economic Theory of Democracy, developed about 50 years ago, really. Individuals get something like free information in ordinary everyday life about the government. Some people get more, some people get less. By free information, I mean information that they get for other purposes, but that helps them understand politics. The idea of free information is very important because in an economic theory of information, you want to collect information to the point where the last bit you collect, the cost of getting it, is equal to the benefit that you get from it. The second stage in this is with the free information, people then look to various what I call shortcuts, or what are actually in political science just generally called, and cognitive psychology, shortcuts. They economize on information by getting it from somebody else who's really spent a lot of time figuring it out. Again, it's a little bit like going to the doctor. Listening to a political party is sometimes like that. And the idea is going to be that with the free information and then the using these other institutions and networks, citizens can, as it were, become sufficiently well informed so that they can actually guide the society that they live in. Now, the thing is of course, is that there's a lot of inequality in this process. Some people get really good free information. Other people get lousy free, or not very good free information. So if you work for the government, you get free information about the government just by doing that. Or if you're a lawyer, or even a doctor, or a business person. Once you understand that the whole thing is based on these networks by which you get information, or economize on information, what's really important is the institutional background by which this happens. Because of course, if you have a highly corrupt system of a network, then you're going to get problems. If you have a decent system of network, then you're going to do well. The unions have a special kind of role in that sense, I think traditionally, to make information available and rational and relatively free for most ordinary people. Not all, of course, because not everyone's a part of a union. What worries me is the decline of unions in the United States, France, the United Kingdom. There, I think with the decline of these unions, I think we may have a partial explanation of the rise of nationalism. that is connected with this economics of information, because now you have a decline of a kind of free information base which is connected with the interests of those workers. The other context, I think, which is especially difficult, and I think it's throughout the world very difficult, is international politics. The big challenge is going to be how to configure democratic institutions so that they, in some sense, enable persons, ordinary persons, to have some sense of what's going on in the larger international environment. I mean, we just had an election in the United States, for example, where the poverty of discussion of international trade is completely revealed. And it's not just, I mean, in some ways, the sad thing is that, you know, the person who won the election talked about it more than anybody else, but he was a protectionist. But the ones who are defenders, for example, of free trade, they don't want to talk about it to anybody. And so there's no serious democratic discussion of the benefits as well as the costs of free trade. And so as societies become more and more interconnected, that's not a possible way to proceed democratically. So this is a major challenge, I think, that needs to be met, and which at the moment, I have to confess, I don't have a solution to.